product, you've seen it everywhere, it's been leaked. Is it just me, but it's every single product is leaked? Anyways, doesn't matter, you know what it is, and you've seen it now. You've seen the video and all that stuff. It looked great, right? But you're here because you want to know if you should buy it. Let's go over the things you do know. So does it shoot 4K? Yes. Single axis mechanism, which is the gimbal? Yes. Digital stabilization that it has inside? Yes. So basically it stabilizes it mechanically and then it also stabilizes it electronically. So it's like a double whammy, right? Return home? Yes. Stabilize, sport mode, and acro mode? Yes. 20-minute flight time? That's pretty cool, right? Is it legal? Yes, I think. Can you do freestyle with it? Yes. But does it rip? No. It's a little bit too heavy. Can it be tuned? Yes. Can it be tuned like an actual quad? No, but maybe that's a good thing. Is the latency good enough? It's just like basically the air unit. It's using the same protocol. Does it have DVR audio? I think it does, my friend. Mr. Steele, you can try it now. And can you fly acro with that new weird like controller, motion controller thing? Unfortunately, I don't think so. In the manual, it says it's only for stabilized mode. I mean, it'll be kind of crazy to be able to fly manual, that thing. I bet they could enable it, but they're gonna have a lot of crashes, so I don't think it's gonna be possible. So who did DJI make this drone for? Is it for the FPV crowd, or is it actually for drone enthusiasts between the ages of 20 and 35 who would like to get into FPV but saw that it was too much work to build and want something they can just plug in and fly? It would just hit the nail on the head. Boom. So it's probably not for the hardcore FPV guy, but there's some serious tech in there that you might want to pay attention to, because maybe, just maybe, they'll improve all of this in the next version. But bear with me, there's a lot to cover. First thing, binding. Super easy, just like any typical DJI drone. The only drawback is you don't have the capability of having models on your controller, right? So you're gonna have to rebind every single aircraft that you have when you wanna fly it. So that's a little bit annoying. DJI, if you wanna get into the FPV game, you have to have models. Let's go over normal and sport mode really quick. Normal mode is a stabilized mode that has the most limitations. The speed and angle is limited, and the gimbal is going to stay level. It's going to feel very familiar for Mavic users, so that's great if you want to have a beginner get a sensation of FPV, because now you can bank left and right, but it's still just like a Mavic. What's cool about this is that you can actually fly backwards and the camera is going to stay level, just like any Mavic, right? So that's something an FPV quad can't do, and maybe you can, if you're an advanced pilot, maybe you can combine this with some shots to do some complicated moves. Sport mode is going to be the same thing, except it's going to give you more speed, and the angle of the camera is going to tilt with the aircraft. You're going to have all that, but you're not going to be able to do your flips and rolls. It's not acro. You know, if you treat it as if it's like a tiny whoop, you're going to have a lot of fun. You don't have to worry so much. Okay, advanced stuff. Manual mode. Before you do anything, you're gonna have to modify the throttle stick so it doesn't spring back to the center. You have to change that, but it's super easy. All you have to do is go to the back, loosen a few screws in the back, and then you're gonna be able to move the throttle from 0 to all the way to the top. You can also adjust the tension on both your sticks. So manual mode is flying pretty much just like a normal FPV quad. To activate the motors, you're gonna have to have your throttle stick all the way down, and you double tap the motor start button, which I think is on the right side. I think it's better to have a single tap for advanced users, but I don't know if they decided to implement that. But basically, the double tap becomes a problem if you want to disarm for whatever reason. If you crash or you get into trouble, you're gonna have to double tap to stop your motors. If you're upside down, for example, motors are gonna be spinning and you're not gonna be able to stop it. That's a problem. I hope they fix that. Let's talk about tuning. Traditionally, PID tuning, as we all know, can be an incredible headache. After the build, if you didn't burn anything yet, the tuning is the second most frustrating part for beginners. Some people never get a decent understanding of what a good tune is, which is why when you fly Mr. Steele's quad, you're like, whoa, I didn't know FPV could be this incredible. It's a big deal. For the DJI drone, they've simplified things, which I think is a good thing. It's basic enough where a beginner won't notice a difference if they don't tune it, but advanced users can also go in and tweak it to a certain extent to make it fit their flying style, which is what I did. I'll call it SemiPro. It's definitely nowhere near as sharp and defined as your 5-inch tune. Not even close. It's like driving a Cadillac and then driving a 911 GT3. But because there's so much artificial compensation happening that I think you're still gonna enjoy flying flowy, cinematic type shots. It's really made for that. So for me, it's the perfect long-range cinematic drone with all the safety bells and whistles on it. Speaking of safety, this thing has sensors. Not to stop you from crashing, but it'll beep when it sees stuff. So I like it for when I'm exploring or scouting new places because it gives you another sensory input for flying FPV that you didn't have before. And another thing, but I think it sends live audio. I think I tried it once. So you can just plug in your earphones and you should be able to get the live audio. I hope they kept that. Just remember, you're probably gonna crash this thing once you start pushing it in manual mode. It's super heavy and it's not made for freestyle. If you do try some power dives, it's not gonna work. You're gonna have to fly it gently and have very smooth lines. As Bruce Lee said, be like water and you'll be able to freestyle with this. If you mash on the sticks, you're definitely gonna crash. It's not gonna be fun. Replacement parts are probably gonna be super expensive also. Crashing is up to you, my friend. You're the one flying. Second safety parameter that I thought was pretty cool for beginners is that there's an emergency stop. At the time, this wasn't enabled for me, so what I tested that worked pretty well is just flipping it into normal mode. So it just goes into a GPS hover. It's actually kind of nice if you want to change parameters, so you can go in your goggles and change stuff, or just take off your goggles for a second. You need to maybe, do something. I wish I could do this on my FPV quad sometimes. It's definitely a luxury, but I think a lot of people are going to be appreciating this, especially if, you're on a film set, for example. So I did take it out for a few flights, and I have to admit, it's really great for cinematic flying. It really fits into the hole that was missing in FPV because I feel like the trend is shifting towards cinematic flying. A lot of custom built quads that are 7 inches are bigger and need a lot of maintenance, so this makes a lot of sense. For example, you can bring maybe 2 or 3 of these units with you on a trip up to the Alps or whatever, and you don't have to worry about it. You can just focus on your trip. You don't have to really prep it. You just charge the batteries and you're good to go. So it flies well, but does the footage look good? This one is going to be a little bit of an issue. In order to record 4K, you're going to have to fly in a higher latency mode. Otherwise, it's just going to be a 1080 image in low latency. This is something that's, I don't know if it was a limitation, and I also don't know if this is final. Maybe they enabled it, so correct me if I'm wrong. Personally, I like flying in low latency mode all the time, so if I need to switch to high latency mode, it's going to change my flying a little bit, and I'm going to be a little bit uncomfortable. But if I'm just doing cinematic flying, maybe it's totally fine. This is probably something that's in the fine print they haven't highlighted, so you're welcome. You need to know this. But I think 1080 is still pretty good because most of us fly for fun. Everything you're seeing in this video is 1080. We're not flying for commercials and films. If you're doing that, now you've got people flying red cameras, doing building dives, man, I would never. That much weight potentially crashing, it's just too scary for me. You guys go do that. I'll stick to my GoPro. Let's compare the 2.7K Osmo action footage that I have here at the same location. This looks pretty similar. Sidebar, both are color graded using my SuperLUT that you can get in my description. Go and check it out. The field of view on this is different because at the time 16:9 was enabled, but 4:3 wasn't. Now you should be able to record in 4:3 if they fix that. So if you hate building or you can't build, this is for you. If you want to fly long range but you were too scared to, this is for you. If you want a super reliable build that's not gonna burst into flames, this is for you. So maybe it wasn't intended for the hardcore FPV guys, but I see the FPV world changing a bit now. I see guys doing cinematic flights and doing filmic editing, working on commercials and becoming professional drone pilots. So if you're that guy, maybe this is for you. Anyways, thank you for watching. Please hit the like button, and if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more film and FPV tips. Till next time, go forth and FPV, my friends.
Push it to the limit, push it to the limit. Going 0 to 1,000 and never stop.